Hello and welcome to Dream It, Dare It, Do It, Live the Life You Want. I'm Jasmine. I'm the host, the creator, the person that's been doing this for a little while now. And as you all know, in this year, I've decided, or this season, I've decided to feature my friends and colleagues about what they're doing out in the world. And you all know that, I'm all about mind, thought, consciousness, and I really love the inside out understanding. And in the I think it's already been a little while since Grace and I spoke, but today I have Grace Kelly with me. Hi, Grace.
Hi, lovely to be here, Jasmine. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming on. I'm looking forward to talk a little bit about what you're doing because I know that, like me, you love the inside out understanding. And right now you have this course that you're doing. There you go. Yeah, this course you're doing with Mark Howard, and it's called There's More to Life Than Thinking About Yourself, which I think is fantastic. Just the title is great. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it is. It's a great title, Jasmine. I'm so fortunate to be connected and collaborating with Dr. Mark Howard for the last couple of years now. And we just came together on a call and we're talking about a kind of a next step program that we would like to offer. And for us, it was really about supporting people in getting beyond habits of thoughts that are holding them back from moving, forward with their creative ideas. And so when we were really looking at, well, what holds people back? What are these habits of thought? What came to light was we all think about ourselves too much. We all we all have habits of thought that get in the way of taking action. It's not that we're short of ideas, it's usually that we just get in our own way. And so it was an inspired idea. It just came flying out of Dr. Mark's mouth, like, well, there's more to life than thinking about yourself, isn't there? And that was it. It was just like, oh my God, that's it. So we have been offering this program, Jasmine, successfully now going into the fourth round, coming up in February, with a group of people, a group of participants who just really are interested in seeing more deeply how this understanding can support them in their business, in their life, in their relationships. And yeah, so we're excited to offer it again.
Well, it's funny that you say that you say that we think a lot about ourselves. And I remember an insight I had for myself. And I remember the actual insight was a little bit of beating myself up about it. The thought that came up was uh the earth doesn't revolve around you, Jasmine. That kind of like, but it was kind of like the beginning of me seeing that I was constantly looking at, there's navel gazing. I was constantly looking at, well, what am I doing? How am I looking? I was constantly there. And then I would forget other people. Like I would forget how other people felt and how other people thought, and I didn't really, a lot of the times whatever I was thinking, well, actually I shouldn't say a lot of the time, I should say all of the time, what I was thinking was not even close to what other people were thinking, because they were also thinking about themselves,
That's right. Yeah. Great
right?
insight. Yeah. It
And
really changes things when you see that.
yeah, and it's not what I like about what I've discovered in the three principles understanding is that it's not a bad thing. Like it's not qualified as a bad thing. It's just a seeing,
Hmm.
like seeing that this is what we are doing without judging ourselves that we are doing it.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. This understanding is so, it's so transformative, you know. So sometimes it's just so subtle, you think nothing's really changing, and yet everything is changing on the inside. And that ability to see what we're doing to ourselves is the game changer. And so when people come and do this exploration with us, you know, we have a different angle each week that we look at, and it's a short program. It's just 4 weeks, because we don't need lots and lots and lots of analyzing and looking at ourselves to really have a change here. We just need to see a little bit of we just need to have a little bit of space from the voice in our head. And you know, you may have heard me, Jasmine, describe that voice in our head as Bob the drunk guy. Have I shared that with you before?
You probably have, because it
Yeah.
seems familiar.
Yeah. So, you know, well, let me share it for those that haven't heard it. But a colleague of mine shared this incredible analogy with me years ago, and it always stuck with me. And basically, we all have this voice in our head that I'm going to call Bob the drunk. And just as every street corner in a big city has some poor drunk guy lying there drinking bottles of vodka or whatever and shouting obscenities, you know, we might walk past him and give him $1 or a euro or a pound, but we would never go to him for advice, ever. And yet there is this drunk in our head shouting obscenities and giving direction and giving guidance. And we go there innocently a lot and pay attention. And when we do that, our lives become, as you described, that kind of navel gazing. Our lives become quite self with a small s, self orientated and self concerned. So Bob loves to evaluate you. Bob loves to criticize and condemn. And yet it's just a small, tiny part of who we are. It's just this part that we have the possibility to get some space from, to pay less attention to, as you described, Jasmine, by seeing what's going on, by having that insight from within as to who's actually operating the system right now. Is it wisdom leading us and guiding us, or is it Bob? And a lot of the time in the human experience, if you don't know Bob is in the house and taking over, you're just living your life in this kind of dull feeling, lack of inspiration, lack of clarity. And, you know, as the state of mind drops, Bob gets louder. Now we've got tension, stress, upset, annoyance, criticism, self-concern, comparison going on. And so, you know, it's so innocent, and no human is free of this. And yet, in the course we're offering, in the space Dr. Mark and I are offering, we're actually seeing people get a bit of distance from that and tuning, dropping back into their wisdom again, you know, really being discerning about where they're coming from and where they're operating from. And that has dramatic results in life, in business, and relationships. Things get cleaned up quite quickly when you're now coming from a place of awareness and a place of wisdom versus Bob. So I hope that makes sense.
It definitely makes sense. I mean, I work with my work is mainly about helping solopreneurs and entrepreneurs to be able to, you know, move in their business, to be in action in their business. And that is my experience. You know, people that are not in action, there's just a lot of thought in the way, a lot of rules, a lot of, you know, like once you don't see, when you don't see what you're doing, you can't be moving. And I think that there's um, a habit, or even I might even go as far as a normal thing. This is what I usually encounter, is that when people don't move, they're not in action, then they start judging themselves about why they're not in action. And then they start making these flat out decisions. Well, I'm not an entrepreneur, or, well, I'm just stupid, or, well, I'm lazy, or like there's these blanket statements that they put on top of that that totally stops their inspiration. And or
Mhm.
you know, even the I'm not inspired, I'm not inspiring, that kind of thought.
Yeah.
But I've seen, and I've seen the age thing, like a lot. I have a lot because I help people with technology as well. I have a lot of people that are not good with technology because they're the older generation, right? Like from, I'm going to say, a little bit older than me, maybe even some people my age are having trouble with technology, and they equate it to the age thing. And
Mhm.
I've seen 70-year-olds get over that and start being super efficient because they could see the thinking and get over whatever they were doing.
Yeah, incredible. It really is incredible that we could be living one way and operating one way our whole lives, seduced by a thought and held back. And in the space of an insight that I'm hearing you're offering people this space where they're having their insight, they're seeing their thinking, they're getting a bit of space, that their whole world can change. They can begin to operate in a whole other way. Even, like that's what Dr. Mark and I are sharing with this is like, when you're free of thinking about yourself, you know, you're you're not holding back from your creative ideas. You're moving forward. I mean, it's like a light going on in a dark room. You really, of course, you always have choice to just stay where you are. But when the light goes on, it's just so obvious the next step. It's so clear. So I love that you're doing that, Jasmine. And I think that this understanding is one of the most efficient ways that people see change and change from the inside out, not change that takes years and months and lots of hard work, but real deep change that allows people to show up in the world in a very powerful way.
And there's a big reduction in stress as well.
Mhm.
That's my experience. Have you heard that from your people that came to see?
Yes. And it's been my personal experience too. I used to run my business in a very stressful, striving, effortful way. And in coming across the understanding, having my own insights around this, things just got graceful. In fact, I even rebranded and called myself Graceful Coaching because my experience of running my coaching business just became so much easier. And so, that level of hustle and tension and, creating from a space of stress, it just melted. And it's still to me a miracle. I couldn't say to you today, Jasmine, here's exactly what I saw and here's exactly what happened to make this experience of business and life become easier. All I can say is I saw something beyond the habits of thought I was living in about my business and about me personally. And it changed the game. The game got graceful. So I love that you bring that up because yes, a reduction in stress is one of many of the beautiful benefits of this understanding.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that there's no stress. We're not saying this, people. We're not saying that at all. We're
Yeah.
just saying there's like a reduction. And there's also, for me, I don't know if this actually applies to everybody, but for me, there's also a level of, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that right now. There's an understanding of, oh, while I'm creating this thought, I'm generating this bad feeling in my body, and I'm just kind of like, "Mm, oh no, I'm not going to do that today." Like I kind of like have more of a, there's, uh, I heard someone say once, it was like, now I have a choice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, our guidance gets louder as our insecure thinking drops away, you know. We hear that inner wisdom. And Sydney Banks, he said it's all common sense. And I think I'm interpreting what he meant by that. I don't know what he meant, but I'm
Yeah.
interpreting that what he was pointing to was, it 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 is common sense that you wouldn't keep trying to make massive decisions in a state of stress, that we wouldn't keep pushing, and that we would stop when we hear that wisdom. So yes, it does open up choice, and for me, it has opened up a deeper connection to my guidance, a deeper clarity, to a kind of a stronger hearing, if you like.
Yeah. So I was wondering, can you talk a little bit about Dr. Howard? Like, as some people don't know him, maybe we could tell them a little bit about Mark, because I know him, and a lot of people who are in the community understand know him, but it would be nice if we could hear about him. You know, who is he, and yeah. I'm pulling up my past guests. I told you I had many guests, and I've never had Mark. Maybe I should reach out to him and ask him to come on.
Definitely, definitely. He is a treat and a treasure, Jasmine. He really is. He was one of Sydney Banks's early students, and he really, he really changed. He changed from the inside out. He, like others, he had an insight. Most of his early life was struggling with anger and worry, and he was searching for happiness. And he tried lots of different therapies, lots of spiritual practices. Nothing provided the answer. And then in 1982, the same year I was born, actually, he was introduced to Sydney Banks, and he had an insight about mind, thought, and consciousness. And he saw that people were creating their emotions, as he says. He realized that he could be happy. And one of the things that really drew me to Mark was I was blessed to meet him. I was really blessed to meet him during my apprenticeship with Michael Neal in LA. We got time together, but one of the things that really um, struck me about Dr. Mark was that he said peace is possible right now. And it just hit me there, like it was one of these profound statements that someone else would hear as like, yeah, whatever. I just heard it when he said peace is possible right now. And that's what he takes a stand for in his business and with his clients. Aside from the fact, it's just an absolute joy to and an honor to be collaborating with um someone so deeply grounded in this understanding, who has helped so many people and such a range of people, Jasmine. Like his wealth of experience with different situations, and just across the board, really, and not just in a personal coaching business, but in clinical psychology and hospitals, in prisons. He's just got so much to offer, and he's adorable. He's gentle, and he's softly spoken, and again, you kind of just melt when you're in his presence. Your stress falls away.
Yeah, it's really amazing. There's a level of listening, when you're with someone that's grounded in this understanding, and I wish I could explain, exactly what grounded is because I mean, some people, we hear the word, we kind of throw the word around and we figure anybody understands, but you know, you can feel groundedness. It's not even like it's not about words, it's about a feeling. When you're with someone, you
Yeah.
can literally feel that there's no additional thinking going
Yeah.
on, like when I started doing these podcasts, I was a little bit more in my head because, I had to look good and I had, and throughout my very first conversations, I was able to just drop whatever thinking I had and then get into the conversation and just be with the flow and
Yeah.
and be with the conversation. And the more that it went, like you and I didn't even know each other when we had our first conversations, right? But people wouldn't even know this, right? People
Mhm.
couldn't, and I was amazed. Like for me, it was always like, wow, I'm having these conversations with people, and
Mhm.
it's like I've known them forever. Like there's nothing in the way of I shouldn't say that to them. I shouldn't say this. There's just freedom of being.
Yeah, yeah. And wouldn't we just love to live our lives like that the whole time? Like we just that level of presence. That level of presence is so powerful. And that's what's on offer with this understanding. We get to live more of that and more like that, not just when we show up on an interview or when we're doing we're working with a client, but it's like dropping into that and just living from that place more and more. And yeah, Dr. Mark Howard, like definitely bring him on, have a conversation, drop into that space. He does just offer that beautiful settling groundedness that we're talking about here.
I would love to have him. I'll maybe you can introduce us and then I
I
can.
will. Love
Okay,
to.
so it's starting on February 6th.
Yes, our next 4-week course will start February 6th and it'll run for 4 consecutive weeks, 75 minutes per session, usually with recordings included.
Okay. And what if, like, let's say, because the podcast episode is going to stay online, and then people could see this maybe in June. Like, do you have a version of the course where people can just buy it without having been present, or no?
We do actually, yes. And normally as well, Jasmine, we'll do a couple of rounds of this per year
Okay.
because the participants ask for more. So as long as they're asking for more, we're running the program. So this next one will start in February. There could be one happening live in June, so check back in. But yes, you can also request to have the recordings of a former program. And we don't have this at a super difficult price point. We at the moment for this upcoming program, we have an early bird offer on, I believe. Our offer is at £97, and you can do a payment plan of 2 payments if you need it. And if you're someone that needs a scholarship because you're really struggling financially and this could help you, that's a thing that you can ask for too by getting in touch. But if people have access to my email through you, Jasmine, they can reach out if they want to get recordings in due course.
Yeah, well, they'll be able to go to your website. You have a contact form on your website, right? So they can contact you through the contact form. So you don't have to wait for me, to give the
Great.
email. But I would invite people to just, if you want to reach out to Grace, literally go on her website. And in the description, you're going to find the place where you can sign up for this program. And obviously, there's going to be the website there as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. Well, is there anything that we're forgetting? We've talked about when, we've talked about
Yeah.
the cost, we've talked about after the fact. I think we've covered it all.
We've covered it all. I always say, Jasmine, you just know in your heart if what I'm sharing here is for you. And we do have, what I will say is Mark and I have done a lovely couple of webinars on this subject. Maybe that's
Mm,
something that we can send a link for, where you
yeah,
can get a taste of us together about the program. But as you're listening, whether it's just to this today or whether it's to myself and Mark on one of those webinars, you'll just know in your heart if this direction is for you. And there is that element of, if you have been holding back, whether it's self-consciousness, you're worried about, how you're coming across publicly, or you're worried about sharing the principles, or, you're just not sure, or you have creative ideas and you're just not leveraging them. This particular exploration happens to really help in those areas, because we're looking at helping people get beyond these habits of thought that keep them stuck. So, yeah, that's all. I'm very happy to be able to share this today.
fantastic. Okay, well, I'm looking forward to hear if you've got any new people sign up based on this. And
Thank
everybody else, I hope that this has spoken to you. And if you like Grace was saying, if it speaks to you, please just reach out. You've got, first of all, it's not too expensive. If you need a scholarship, you can go. It's 4 weeks, and you could have a beautiful transformation out of
you.
it. So I invite you to go ahead and click the link in the description and sign up today.
Thank you, Jasmine.
All right, everybody. We're gonna close that up today, and I'm gonna say dream it, dare it, do it, live the life you want, and I shall see you in the next episode. Take care.
Bye.